Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. The discussion ultimately comes down to solutions, and that's where the disagreements have been occurring. What solutions should be implemented? But I guess the solutions will depend on what's the problem. In fact, is there a climate change problem? And when I listen to what each of you have said, evidence is presented on temperature changes over thousands of years, and we see patterns of warming and cooling, and I guess the Earth is always evolving. It's never static, and so that continues today. So the question I would have before we talk about solutions, do each of you believe there is a climate change problem that we should even be attempting to address, or is it one that's beyond the ability of humans to affect in any event?
If I could just jump in for a second. For many years, I've taught a climate change course at Carleton University, which, much to my chagrin, grew up to about 800 students before I escaped from it for a little while. But one of the first things I would try to get across to the students is the only constant about climate is change. Okay, so that's something we've talked about here already today. Climate changes perpetually. And as all of our research has shown, sometimes the changes can be quite dramatic. So it's not an issue. There's not a climate change issue. There's always a drought going on somewhere in the world. The big, or there's warming, or something's happening someplace. The big things that we have to really think about are how can we adapt to this? How can we get resources from one part of the country or one part of the world to the place that's having a problem? So I think really the thing that we should be really thinking about is how are we going to adapt to the climate changes that we know are going to occur and that can occur at very rapid timescales at times. So that's my perspective.
So your conclusion would be we cannot, as humans, we cannot alter that change in climate. All we can do is adapt to it, and that's where we should focus our resources.
Yeah.
That would be your opinion.
My opinion, and for the other issues about what people are always talking about pollution and so on, well, I deal with it, okay, to develop cleaner technologies to deal with the real issues, the NOxes and the SOxes that basically are creating air pollution. That's where we should be putting our money in, because, we live in a great city here in Ottawa, for example. It's a wonderful, clean place. I've visited China and Jakarta and these places. I would not want to live there, no way, because the air quality is so terrible. So we want to deal with these real air pollution issues. Climate change is not something that we're going to change. I read about this magical 2 degrees Celsius all the time that we can't get over. What's the magical about 2 degrees Celsius? There's much, much more variability even in the last 10,000 years than 2 degrees Celsius. What we have to do is adapt ourselves to whatever's going to happen.
Thank you.
I personally, I believe there are both. There is sun and there is some contribution from CO2. Okay, it is there, but it's not the way 90% is human and CO2 and the sun is practically non-existent. It's, if anything, it's the other way around. Okay, so if there isn't any impact, well, and there is a pollution, you can also argue, okay, when we burn, we pollute. So it can be used as a measure of activity somehow to calibrate our pollution, okay? But not claiming 2 degrees or 4 degrees or 6 degrees because the models are simply not there.
And your conclusion was the major influencing factors
It's
climate change are water vapor and what you referred to as electromagnetic envelopes around the sun and the Earth?
This is one of the ways. The major problem is the clouds. Nobody knows how to make clouds. Okay? You have to see them. So you probably heard about the big experiment which was just happened in Geneva in the so-called cloud experiment, okay? Which confirmed what the others were saying, like Svensmark and myself for years now, that yes, you generate small particles which can serve as nuclides for those cloud, and there were data showing that there are correlations. But the problem which is there is now how to make those very tiny particles into big aerosols, which can be used for formation of droplets. So they say, oh, because of that it has no meaning. These are already, this all fits into the situation, into that model of sun. But that problem, how to make clouds, is exactly the same problem which is in CO2. They don't know how to make clouds. So why in one case it dismisses the entire theory, and in the other case it's no problem? Okay? They have exactly the same problem. They are putting the clouds. I told you that the change between cloudy and cloudless sky is 30 watts. Okay? We are arguing about 1.6 watts. Okay? So you just know it yourself. When sun shines, it's warm. When it's cloudy, it's cold. Okay, that's how it is. And so, if you can make the clouds, and neither theory knows how to do it, and the clouds are being put into the model as plus 0.6 or something like that watts, yet the variation is 30 watts. How can you do that? Those 1.6 watts is a number which is taken from very huge numbers, positive and negative ones, which by themselves have bigger error than 1.6, or at least the same big. Right. Okay, so this is the whole issue, and there is lots of experiments now going on in that way. So why one theory is dismissed and the other is okay?